With Mason and Gentry out, you had several other interior guys. What separated Pono Davis that got him the nod, at least on the first round?
Well, he initially did a good job in the scrimmages, in limited opportunities, making plays. You know, there was one scrimmage where he made nearly every tackle, and Coach Wyatt has watched his development over the course of fall camp, and we just couldn't keep him out of there. Which I always say about the big guys, you got to have a rotation with them anyway. So the situation with Mason, him being out here early on, it just kind of opened the door for Pono, and we don't feel that as we've watched Pono that there'll be a big drop off. So we're excited about the day when Mason comes back and we're able to have both of those guys available to play.
What have you seen from Darian Mixon since he's transferred here?
Well, the first thing is when you have a transfer come in, you got to kind of take them with a grain of salt, because a lot of times they have baggage and they have things that they bring that you just hadn't discovered yet, because in a lot of cases there's a reason that guy's leaving. And so we share that with transfers when they come in, that they kind of have to prove themselves. One of the things about our program is that we have a great culture, and the guys, when a transfer or when a young guy or recruit comes in, they're monitored heavily, not just by the coaches, but by the players. And all the reports came back with Darian as far as who he was as a person, how he operated away from this building, how he operated with our players in the locker room. It always came back positively. So then once we saw what he was able to do as a football player, then that even gave us more excitement, because like Coach said earlier, the guy can run. He's played football on a different level than this one, and he has performed well. So we're excited about what he brings off the field in terms of his leadership, in terms of who he is as a young man. But then we're excited about what he brings as a football player. When you talk about our defensive line, and the first two questions were about that group, I'm excited as a coordinator of the defense, because of the fact that we have some guys on the defensive line who we can count on now to be able to play, to be able to stop the run, to be able to pressure the quarterback without having to blitz, without having to bring extra people and put more pressure on the secondary. So those two guys, along with a host of others, the Denver Garys and the Delonte Scotts and the Michael Badajos, those guys give us the opportunity to be able to play defense centered around the play of the front, rather than around the pressure and the blitzing and being a magical defensive coordinator, which I'm not.
Mixon
I can't do a magic trick here or there, but not on the football field.
Mixon is one of the guys that Coach Morris has mentioned a few times during camp as someone who's come in, made a bunch of plays, and your description of him in terms of his character off the field and his ability to run a lot on the field sounds a lot like Justin Lawler. How are they different?
Well, I think Justin is, and he would definitely disagree with me, but he's not an electrifying player. He's a solid, consistent. You know exactly what you get from him. He's not going to light the world on fire with his ability to be able to run. You know what I mean? You're not going to see him pass defensive backs chasing the ball down. That's not who he is. He's going to be in the right place at the right time. But we have film clips of Darian running down, being right in there with defensive backs chasing down runners. So he is a more dynamic player, Darian, and he's had a mode of consistency about him. But like I said, when you turn on the film, you see him flash athletic ability time and time again. And that's kind of where they're different.
You mentioned Gary earlier. He's moved to tackle after having a very good true freshman season last year, but it looks like he's added a lot of really good weight, and he looks like a different person. What have you seen from him, and how has he grown since this time last year?
Well, the biggest thing with Demrick is that we saw that he had the skill to be able to play inside. And, you know, we just have not ever had the mass that Mason Gentry possesses. So, you know, when you have Demrick as a true freshman, we always like to say when you go inside, they turn the radio up a little loud inside. And we just had a little bit of hesitancy about putting him in there as a true freshman. But as he's gained weight, like you talked about, as he's developed within the system, he makes plays outside or inside, and he actually gives us a lot more flexibility when we go to our 3-down front because of the fact that he's played on the edge. He's done that before, and like he's gotten stronger, he's gained weight, so he really gives us something else to complement the other guys that we've talked about.
When you look at your linebackers, Jordan Williams is a guy that you've talked about for a couple of years as a guy who's going to be pretty good. Now he's in your starting lineup. What do you like about Jordan?
Well, he's a smart player, and like you said, he's had some opportunities to play over the years. He just never been able to stay healthy, and that's been a big obstacle for him. So now we've seen in the spring, we saw flashes of a healthy Jordan Williams, and it's exciting to be able to have a smart guy out there who can get you lined up, who can do different things as a linebacker, and you're able to see him in a healthy state. He's played some games, but many of those times it's been battling injuries, and you just kind of throwing him out there because you had to have him. So we're excited to have him in this place. I think our strength staff, they've done a great job, and they do a great job of trying to keep our guys in a place where we can maximize their abilities by keeping them fresh and by having them trained properly, and that's going to be important for Jordan. So we're excited about him, like I said, because of who he is as a football player, the way he prepares, how smart he is, and we're looking for really a big season from him.
You have 3 sophomores starting in your defensive backfield. With that relative youth, do you expect some growing pains there, or do you think that these guys are ready to go?
I think my wife is calling me. Anytime you play with young guys, and we've been in the place where we've had to play with first-time guys. You know, anytime you're playing with young guys, now a guy who's a sophomore, a redshirt freshman, he's seen it, right? He's seen it. But there'll be growing pains as we go through, especially in the secondary, because what offenses do is they continually challenge their eyes. And if guys are not seated properly with their eyes, with their keys, then there's a potential right there for a play, for a big play. Because, you know, we talked earlier about the defensive front, or if Demrick Gary misses a play, misses a tackle, jumps out of his gap, yeah, we got Anthony Roan standing right there to make up for it. Or if Rodney Clemens makes a mistake, any kind of mistake, having a backup plan for him, it gets to be very difficult. So we're going to rely on those guys to be efficient with their calls, getting us lined up, but also to be efficient with their eyes and their keys to make sure that we don't put ourselves as a defense in a position to give up a big play. And that was really toward the end of the season, that was something that we struggled with, you know. And as you play, like I said, as you play more and more young guys, then that's where you put your defense and your entire team, honestly, at threat when they have to, you know, make those calls.
When you got here a couple of years ago, you pretty quickly identified Anthony Roan as one of the guys who could make a lot of the calls for your defense. now he's been doing it for a couple of years and he's going into his senior year. How is he different now than the Anthony Roan you got in 15?
Well, he, along with some of those other, we talking right now about Mason Gentry. Well, when we got here, this was Mason Gentry's first opportunity to play, you know, and same with the Anthony Roans of the world and the Jordan Wyatts of the world. So as I think Coach just said it a minute ago, anytime you have the experience of being able to do something, you know, time and time again, we are in a place, if we don't, as coaches, if I don't get in their way, we're in a place where we can experience the fruit of Anthony Roan's experience, Anthony Roan's opportunity to mess it up time and time again. And now he's in a place where, because he's experienced, he can get it right. So I'm excited about him. He again is not an electrifying player. You know, he's no Archie McDaniel, his coach, right? But he is a solid player. He is a guy who can get us lined up right. Sometimes it doesn't look pretty, but he's making the proper calls. He has the respect of his teammates in such a way that when he makes a call, they listen to him and they follow his lead down the road. So we're excited about that.
Would he agree with that assessment that he's no Archie McDaniel?
Well, he would believe that he's more athletic than his coach. My 11-year-old would say that, but Coach Mack, of course, would.
Anything else for Coach?
Chiron Mitchell is a guy who last year you talked about as having some of those intangibles that, I don't remember exactly how you phrased it, something about...
Water moccasin, bona fide player. Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Water moccasin?
Yeah. No, Chiron is one of our most productive players. When you evaluate time and time, practice and in games, he continually is one of the more productive players. He's very instinctive, and he does things. Coach Mack always says he does things that you don't even have to coach, and so he's one of those guys that I talk about DeMaurier and being dynamic. And there's plays where you think as a coach, how did he do that? Chiron continually makes those plays. Sometimes it goes against the technique, but he's on the play. He's making the play, you know. And that's kind of what he brings, and that's what he's always shown us to be as a player. And now even more experience, like we talked about some of these other guys, even more experience is going to, we feel, giving them an opportunity to be able to make more of those kinds of plays.
Jordan Wyatt came on last year and made a lot of plays for you. Are you the type of coach who would ask him to follow a clear-cut #1 receiver, or will he always stay on one side?
Well, there's sometimes situations where we can do that. Most of the times when you play offenses, they put the clear-cut best receiver in the position where we have Jordan aligned anyway, which is most often to the boundary. So we don't necessarily run our corners across the field, but if we get into this situation where we would have to do that, we have every confidence that he would be able to do it. But we try to, with the tempo teams, we face one in practice every day. It's very difficult to have a guy do that. Nextly, the offense is always, is that a word, nextly? Okay, let's put it in the dictionary. We always find that offenses hide the Cortland Suttons, right? They'll put him in different positions, so it ends up being difficult to be able to track your corner on the best receiver. But like I said, most of the time the offense finds Jordan with their best receiver.